Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Sister Circle for the Soul After Show. My name is Erin Relford, and as mentioned, we never record the actual session because we want to keep that intimate space, but we do record that here so that you can be part of the show, right? Jennifer, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jennifer Anderson. I have the pleasure with Erin on working with Sister Circle for the Soul as the host. And I love people and strategy and people living their best lives. And so that is my calling in life and what I like to do in every space. And I get to do that with you guys in Sister Circle for the Soul and Sister Circle for the Soul after show recap. Say that fast 10 times.
Yes, it's tongue twizzler if that's the word. So look, Jennifer. Yes, Jennifer is our moderator, and today we did something different. We did a special Q&A live where you get to ask your questions and everything that's on the brain right now, especially during COVID. And listen, the temperature was different, just a little bit different, and we had a lesson of our own in the sense of like what different people bring to a situation and like how that kind of forms a narrative, but at the same time a temperature and energy and a vibe, right? And I think that's it. Really, it's about the vibe. So, Jennifer, what did you think of today's special Q&A?
Yeah, I think, you know what, when we go to the grocery store, we don't buy the same uh, food, right? Like we buy maybe salad and pasta and maybe something vegan or maybe some ice cream, whatever your flavor is. And that's exactly what we did today. We did something that was a different kind of flavor. So typically we will have theme discussions where I will have questions that are pre-prepared that I pose to the group, and we kind of navigate our way through the conversation. People pick up gems, people offer gems, and it's very much of a discussion, right? It's very, very much of a discussion. Today was different. Today, the objective was not to just have a discussion, but to really do some individual TLC, right? Do some individual TLC to allow people to just bring their questions, like you said, and address that. And because we were just doing an answer question, it wasn't that same kind of discussion environment, but I think it was definitely productive because the people who showed up, asked questions, got some clarity, was able to be in a room with like-minded individuals. And I think community is what we definitely need right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Jennifer, one of the questions that got asked today was in relation to a manager and not having enough time with them when they really needed the help. And it seemed like there was like more to that story. But what I took from it is that everyone is being stretched right now, especially because of this pandemic and what's going on in politics and the economy. In terms of that young lady's question, you mentioned to her that we essentially are we eat the words that basically we speak, right? And so I think the exact quote was, the words that you say are the words you're eating. And so can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that? Because I really liked that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was very clear in the question was, okay, my manager doesn't have enough time for me. Okay, well, does the manager not have enough time because they're stretched thin? Or does the manager not have enough time because they really just don't want to have time for you?
Right.
And I advised that she do a little bit of reconnaissance to understand what her next move needs to be. And one of those things being is that if she legitimately doesn't have time, try to be a solution to her, right? But in that, we started getting into this concept of not feeling able that she could speak up and not feeling like she could ask for recognition and not feeling like she could ask for a raise. And it was very, very clear that there was a story going on in her head that was defeating herself, right? And that's how we got to that quotation. Whatever you're believing, whatever you're saying, you're eating on those words. you are making that a reality. You are growing strong in that area, whether that message is for your good or if that message is not for your good,
Absolutely.
right? And so in that situation, it was very clear that although her manager did not have time for her, there was a certain level of confidence that she also needed to walk in.
Mhm.
And one reason why she might not have been doing that was because of the beliefs that she thought were true and that she was articulating to herself over and over again.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, it's essentially like the words that you're speaking, just in relation to what we're talking about with the young lady, is everything that you do, it does matter and it does have value, but it's up to you to basically kind of help drive and articulate where that thing is going to go, essentially. Kind of.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's important to make sure that your beliefs, it's important to really be auditing what you're thinking and what you're saying,
Mhm.
because it really is going to create a reality that you're in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like what Roseanne had to say and her question, which was really good, and it was dealing with essentially how do I know what's important to me? That was how I took her question, because she's wanting to change careers or at least discover new careers. And I like your response to it, in that the thing that you were wanting, that goal, you are taking everything that you're working towards that goal for. It's all good. It's all good. Elaborate on that for me.
Yeah, yeah. For me, when I heard her question, it was a lack of motivation, right? She has this clarity that, wow, I found out what I want to do next. Super amazing. But I started this class, this lesson over here. I'm just not motivated. And I'm trying to be motivated. I know it makes sense for me to do it, but I'm just not motivated. And I think that, to your point, the power in that is that, yes, it's all connected, because when we know that we have this dream and we have this goal, to your point, everything that we do that helps us to get there is important. And so we have to tell ourselves that, instead of saying, oh, it's boring, or oh, it doesn't mean anything, or oh, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You've got to always know your why. And sometimes parts of that why may not be cool. It may not feel good. It may not be great, right? Like those who work out. When you're working out in the moment, maybe it feels good, maybe it doesn't, but those results everybody likes,
Mm.
right? I think during this time, it can be super hard to be motivated, but we have to go back to our why. Why are we doing? What are we doing? What does that fit in? How does that fit with our overall goal?
Mhm.
And to use that as continued motivation. Again, going back to the story that's going on in our head, right? Making sure that we know and that we're telling ourselves why the things that we do matter and how they're getting us to our goals. And if necessary, put up something visual to help you stay motivated.
Yeah, this actually came up in the last Sister Circle Media, Sister Circle for the Soul event that we had. And you started talking about voicemail and that voice in our head that is constantly on repeat. Can you just elaborate and color that a little bit for those who may have missed out on the last one?
Yeah, you know what? There's a quotation, so a man thinketh he is, and I probably butchered it, but you guys kind of know where I'm going, and we'll keep it gender neutral. But how we think is how we live. How we think about ourselves is our identity,
Mhm.
right? How we think about ourselves, it influences how we interact with other people. If I don't think I can make friends, and if I think I'm just the horrible person in the room, I'm not going to be as outgoing and trying to make those connections, right?
Right.
So it's really super important that we're real with ourselves, but that we're also honest about the wins and the things that we might need to kind of work on. And I think usually people are more critical of themselves than they should be,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think it's super important that as we're honest with our growth opportunities, we celebrate the wins. We talk about the things that are good. Hey, I like that I've got curly hair, and yeah, I like that I still know how to jump rope. Whatever that is, right? It's super important that we like ourselves,
Yeah.
And when we find ourselves not liking ourselves, what is that messaging in our head? What are those beliefs that are influencing how we think? And when we talk about the voicemail, it's literally that. It's this repeat message.
Yeah.
It's this repeat message of, I think I can, or I think I can't. And we all go through that. And it's super important that we are auditing that, that we're aware of what those messages are, that and when we're able to hone in on them, we're able to really challenge those assumptions.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to kind of spring clean and take out the things that are not positive and in our best interest, and put in those things that are, put in good food for us to eat on, right? In our thinking and in our doing.
Yeah, some of us definitely need to dial in and change that, either change the number or change the voicemail.
Right. Listen, and you know what's so funny? We might have really good messaging when it comes to certain areas of our lives, right? And in other areas we don't. So take an assessment of your life. What are some things that you're super happy about that are moving in the direction that you want? Think about how you're thinking about those things.
Yeah.
Do the same thing in those areas that are not producing the way that you want them to go. And how are you thinking about those things? There's a high chance that you're thinking two different ways about those two different areas of your life. Let's elevate our thought life. Let's elevate what we're saying. We're going to elevate what we're believing, what we're eating on. And I think we'll see some different results.
Yes. And speaking of elevation, so I remember a young lady having a question regarding leadership. And it was what came out of that for me was talking about leadership equals lifting up people, right? And I think you mentioned that leadership looks different for everyone. Care to discuss?
Yes, absolutely. You know, this is so beautiful, right? Like, it's evident that we're in the same conversation, we're hearing the same kind of responses, and you and I are pulling different gems out of it, right? Just like all the other participants. And when I was listening to that young lady, what was clear for me is that, like many, she was suffering from imposter syndrome, right? This thing of, how can I be a leader? I'm used to being a worker bee. That's what rung out in my head, right?
That voicemail.
Yeah.
Voicemail,
right? Like my identity is a worker bee. Now I'm trying to delegate and lead and lift other people. Who said that I'm qualified? Wait a minute. Quality is about leadership is about your person, not a title. Not a title, right? And I think with that being said, as we were discussing, you know, so often we look for these outside external images to validate us as a person. And that's how we got into the different kinds of leadership. I said, listen, you, meaning the young lady, you operate in leadership. It's just that your leadership may not look like the other person down the street, right? And there's different kinds of leadership. And just because you operate in one, different from another, doesn't mean that you should discount what you operate in. There are different forms of leadership because there are different needs. Own your form of leadership. Love your form of leadership. Understand what forms of leadership maybe you have some opportunity growth in, and decide, do you grow in those things, right? Does it align with your values, or do you delegate, or do you not do that, right? Like someone would say that empowerment is a leadership style. I know that's definitely one of the ones that I ascribe to, and I like that. I love doing that. Some people may say that micromanaging is a certain kind of leadership style. That's not personally my style. That's not something that I subscribe to, so I'm not going to grow there. But say coaching is a leadership style, and I like that, and maybe I want to grow there, right? So just because your leadership style might be different from someone else, that's okay, right? The biggest shame is thinking that you're going to find yourself out there and try to copy someone. You don't have to be a duplicate. You can be your own perfect original.
Absolutely. So do you want a curveball or softball? Because I got one of both. You tell me which way you want this after show to go.
You know what? I'm feeling feisty. I'm gonna let you choose. Just
Okay,
me.
let's do this. So the curveball being, we didn't discuss this, but you just said something, and it's we always are looking for these external factors to validate what's on the inside. And I find it interesting that the validation doesn't come from from the inside out versus, did I say that right? Versus the outside
Yeah,
in.
right out. Yep.
So tell me your thoughts on that.
I think it's so on point. We have to remember that, listen, TV and media, they do an excellent job creating an image. It's
Mm-hmm.
an image.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily real life. And so we're trying to compare ourselves to perfect lighting and Photoshop and
Yes.
voiceovers and fans with the hair moving. I can't work it like Beyonce, right? And it's beautiful. Like, I'm not taking anything away from it. It's absolutely gorgeous. But that's not the real thing. I could buy whatever hairspray I want. I'm never gonna have my hair blow naturally like Beyonce's. Okay? So we have to understand, what are we comparing ourselves to? Is it something real or is it not? And here's the thing. You are here because you are originally needed. No copies are necessary.
Mm.
And I think that, so often, and I think that so often the way how television works, it exalts an image. It lifts up an image. It lifts up an image so that you look at it, right? Media is doing their job and they are communicating a message about that image. And there are people who professionally write that message. And again, they do an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the message in us?
Yeah.
That's the original. That's the creation. That's the thing that's not out there. And that's where such a disservice would happen if one would try to look out there to try to find their exact selves. You're here because you're an original.
Yeah.
You're here because there's something new that you're supposed to bring to the table.
Yeah.
So to be able to look out and to learn and to glean and to become better, sure. But to look out and try to find yourself, that's where you'll always be lost, because where you have to look to find yourself is not out there, it's right in here.
That's right. So instead of looking out, just leave from within. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Lead from within, and you got to be quiet to start. It doesn't start with a whole bunch of noise. You got to get in tune with who you are in order to know what your original looks like.
Amen. So on another subject, well, not another subject, but another sub bullet for leadership, we talked about the power of delegation and what that looks like, because a lot of us don't know how to delegate.
Right. I think we as women, we as Black women, we as people spread thin during these very challenging times, are used to doing things on our own, right? And I think that when you're in a process of growth and movement, what you used to do does not work for where you're going. Okay, earlier I brought up a restaurant example. When the restaurant is a sole restaurant, they're able to operate in a particular way. Mm-hmm. But the moment that restaurant goes from 1 to 50 to 100 to worldwide, how you do things has to scale for that thing too, right? And I think that right now what we're seeing is we're trying to get a lot done, and we're going to have to change how we do what we do. And that might mean taking a real assessment of what's important to us.
Yeah.
And how we put our hands to that might have to change, which means maybe we can't hold everything close to the vest. Maybe we need to delegate, and that's where that fit in. Maybe we need to empower someone else to learn how to do a thing. Maybe we need to expand our communities and not do all things by ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people can be afraid of delegating because they feel like they're giving up control. I say delegating leverages you. You're able to tap into people and personalities and giftings that makes something bigger and better than if you were the only brain on it, if you were the only kind of hands on it. And I think when you delegate, it's also this opportunity for other people to grow, right? And giving other people the chance that maybe we're looking for in order to grow our skill set. So delegating, not from the standpoint of just kind of, whatever, I don't want to do it, but really delegating those things that are close to us allows us to grow and expand and allows people around us to grow and expand. And I think that's necessary so that we can continue to grow in this new normal and expand and bring people along the way.
Yeah, so there's a throughput here, and that's essentially growth. And there was something that was mentioned during the session where I believe you mentioned that we are not static individuals, we are dynamic creatures, right? And so can we talk about what growth looks like and how it can be, maybe not what growth looks like, but how it can be uncomfortable because there's a new thing happening that you're actually having to feel into?
Yeah, I think you said it, right? You know, growth means expansion, and growth means change. And those are good things. But what that also means is that with growth and expansion, the original design has to metamorphosize, right? The original design has to metamorphosize. And that means that our thinking has to change when we're growing. That means how we manage our time has to change when we're growing. That means how we relate to people, how we work with our network and family and friends and loved ones, and how we serve, how we give has to change when we're growing. You know, on Thanksgiving Day, I can maybe visit up to 4 houses, right? Like that's the most I can do, like bopping around trying to say hi to people. But if all of a sudden my family grows to like 200 people, there's no way I can make it to 200 people's house. So how I love and how I give and how I add value has to change for the people who I'm wanting to give to. And that's called scaling, right? And that can be uncomfortable because that means that we ourselves have to change internally before we can change externally. And for us to change internally, we've got to ask ourselves some real questions. Some of them are going to be hard, but we've got to face the truth, understand what is most important to us, and move forward in that direction confidently.
Absolutely. There was a quote that came out of the session, and it is, when the mind shifts, the heart will shift. So if we're looking to scale, not just in business, but also in life, start with your thoughts, change the voicemail, and the heart will shift for sure, right?
Absolutely.
So Jennifer, listen, this was a special Q&A, which means next month we will be doing something different, but we will plan to have more of these Q&As because we did have a popular, we had a good turnout. So I appreciate everyone who did show up. Any last words before we go, Jennifer?
You know what? I'm just so grateful to share this time with you and with all of the Sister Circle Media family members. There's so much going on. Always stay in tuned and in check with Sister Circle for all the good stuff and the community. And listen, these times, like I said, are different and difficult for us all. It's requiring all of us to grow. It's requiring all of us to expand, to change how we're used to doing things. And it's easier to do that in a community of like-minded people. So I encourage everyone to just hop on board and connect with Sister Circle Media. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next event.
I think she said it. I think she said all she needed to say. My name is Erin Relford with Sister Circle Media. As Jennifer mentioned, we do this every month. Please do RSVP for the next Sister Circle for the Soul. And you can find us at our handles on Instagram. We are coming up with another event really soon that is Bea Dixon, who is the CEO of the Honey Pot. If anybody remembers the story of Target, that's all I need to say. My name is, again, Erin Relford, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.